Spider-Man, without a doubt, has been one of the most impactful superheroes to ever grace the big screen. Not only have we had a number of live-action iterations of Peter Parker, including Tobey Maguire, Andrew Garfield, and now Tom Holland, we've also had animated versions of this with the Amazing Spider-Man and a number of television shows. Spider-Man is a hero who not only saved New York, he also was a big part of helping save Marvel Comics from the very beginning. When Marvel Comics was in a large financial issue, prior to Marvel Studios even existing and the version of the MCU that you're familiar with today, Stan Lee and the guys behind Marvel Comics figured out how to save their business. And that was by licensing some of their most popular characters to make films. The money that they received for licensing characters like Peter Parker and the X-Men actually is part of what helped keep Marvel Comics afloat at the time. So many of the heroes that you know and love and the movies that you've become attached to would not exist if it weren't for Peter Parker not only being your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man, but also helping save Marvel Comics as an industry. Spider-Man is without a doubt one of the most popular characters they have ever made. Some studies show that even in years where there's not a Spider-Man movie released, it's still the Marvel property that sells the most merchandise. You cannot walk into a Comic-Con, a movie store, or even some of your more familiar box stores like a Target, a Walmart, a Hot Topic without seeing Peter Parker or Spider-Man emblazoned on something. But what is it about this character that makes so many people from so many different walks of life feel seen? And why does this character continue to have such an impact on us through decades of time and change? How are so many actors able to take this mantle up and make a movie that makes a difference to us and makes us go to the theaters? Today's episode of You Are What You Love tries to get to the bottom of all of that by going through one individual's personal attachment to one specific iteration of the Spider-Man universe. Today, YuviRayz joins me to talk about how The Amazing Spider-Man, the first movie of Andrew Garfield's take on the character, helped shape his life in terms of the way that he looks at creativity, in terms of the way that he makes his own film content, and in the way that he looks at the world. We explore where Peter Parker fits into the rest of his taste, and why this movie seems to have made such an impact on him individually, even down to the fashion that we need to see return, including long sleeve shirts underneath t-shirts. This was such a fun conversation to have, even though at one point I was accused of being Yuvi's therapist. I think you'll enjoy this episode as much as I enjoyed recording it, so without further ado, please enjoy this episode of You Are What You Love. Hey everyone, welcome back to You Are What You Love. I'm so excited because I'm having a good friend on this podcast. YuviRayz is a actor, content creator, filmmaker, and also a pretty cool general dude. We met out at the Olympics on a brand trip together. So I'm excited to have him on. Please welcome Yuvi to the podcast.
Yay! Thank you so much. I'm excited. This is going to be fun. What a wild origin story, huh? We met at the Olympics in Milan.
I love saying that to people too, because it sounds so insane. But it's like, yeah, you know, we found out we both like film. We were just hanging out at the Olympics.
Yeah, it's wild. I was telling someone today I was doing this podcast, and I was like, oh, it's a friend of mine that lives in LA, talks about F1 and sports, also is a writer, met at the Olympics. My friend said, what is your life? And I was like, I don't know, man. I was like, I don't know.
Like, but what a life. You know what I mean? If you can make up a fake one, why not?
Yeah. Wild.
One thing I want to say for people, in case they're not familiar with your content, you are not just like obsessed with film, but you also make basically your own films where you play every part, write everything, direct. It's so fun. And I had the pleasure of running your camera for you at the Olympics, and it's so fun to watch you do it. So I feel like I have to ask how you got started doing those, just so people know before we get in.
Yeah. Oh man. I feel like I look like a crazy person when you're watching me film, just like me saying these lines and imagining every other line in my head. But I don't know, I started on social media in like 2015, and it started on YouTube. It wasn't even acting right away. It was like, I think I had like undiagnosed ADHD. I think I was a kid that was like, let me pick up a hobby, get obsessed with it. Next hobby. Like I always need to be doing something. I always need to be active. I was drawing as a kid. I was doing Rubik's puzzles and magic tricks. And so my YouTube started out as a place where I was just showing this stuff. So I was like, oh, Rubik's puzzle video, magic, how to do a magic trick video. Like, it's just stuff like this. Soccer videos. And then I always knew that I wanted to act and make movies. That's kind of why I started YouTube. But I wasn't necessarily doing that on YouTube, which is weird.
Sure.
But then I started like vlogging sometimes, stuff like this, doing skits and sketches on YouTube, short form starting like 2018, and it was just me doing stuff for fun. It was never I'm gonna make this social media thing like my thing because I was still taking acting classes and writing classes. Like I was doing all of that. So I'm like, okay, I want to act and make movies and be in movies. It was 2023. So I played around with sketches and like making skits and all this stuff for a while. But 2023, I think I really was like, cool, let me do this on TikTok. Let me just find a different way to play some characters. And then that kept growing and I started getting more creative. And then 2024, I think is when I really found what everyone sees now, like that thing for me. It started off as me being like, oh, I want to do some it was me playing a specific character, like a cashier, like a very nonchalant cashier character. So it's just like one camera like set up pointing at me. I'm like checking somebody out, but it's a very specific type of person. And I did a few of those. And then I'm like, what if I played a detective in a movie? And it was just like a one camera thing on me. And then slowly that evolved to, I did it for a long time. Like I think it was 6 months when I was blowing up where I posted a new sketch every day. And I'm also someone who likes to, I don't like to do something if I start getting bored by it. Like I need it to be fun. And so I was doing the one camera setup for a while, and then I'm like, why don't I play these other characters that I have off camera talking to me in a voiceover? Then I play 2 characters, and then 3, and then I'm like, let me go in a cool place and film it and get some camera movement. And then it just slowly turned into this thing where I'm buying props and I'm buying microphone gear and I'm like just buying stuff to essentially make my own like vertical series. I guess people have vertical series now. I've just been doing it forever, and I didn't have a name for it. I was like, doing like this zombie apocalypse series now where I go to this university close to me and I'm like, bring my change of like 4 different outfits and my, like, it's a whole production.
I'm waiting to see if they survive. Like, I feel like I'm at like, I'm like, God, I hope they make it.
I got 4 more parts that I've fully edited and ready to go. But yeah, it was something that was a slow thing that I found. It wasn't right away that I'm like, okay, I'm going to play every character. I'm going to do these series. It was, I'm playing a character. Now I want to play 2, and now I want to do it somewhere here. Now I want to string together different storylines so that there's like a continuation. So it was a slow, gradual thing. Honestly, out of me being like, I don't want to be bored and I want to keep innovating and keep being more and more creative.
It's cool because it reminds me a little bit of like what if Eddie Murphy had TikTok back in the day. It's kind of like what you would see that type. You know what I mean? Like you've got like a I just watched a documentary on him, his like big Netflix documentary, but watching him like craft all of those different characters and do it with a full studio behind him, I almost imagine if he had the ability to do social media, he would have done something similar.
Yeah, no, you're right.
Well, let's talk about the thing that changed you, because the other part of that is you talk about all these iterations, and the movie that you chose has had a number of iterations. So what is the movie that changed who you are today?
The movie that changed who I am today, which this is a very difficult question to think of, is The Amazing Spider-Man, the 2012 one, Andrew Garfield, directed by Mark Webb. That's the one that I think had a huge impact on my life and my creativity in general.
I was so excited that you picked this because we've talked about this offline, but I did my graduating thesis on the MCU, and I've been doing this show for like 2-3 years, and no one has ever chosen a Marvel movie, which is insane to me.
That's insane to me.
Yeah, and this is one of my favorites, so this is like a perfect choice. But I'm like, I always wonder if people are like, oh, it's like, it's too genre. I'm like, genre movies are very important to me personally. So for anyone who hasn't seen The Amazing Spider-Man, especially the Andrew Garfield one that we're talking about now, what would you kind of summarize the movie? And I'll give you like 2 sentences because I know you could go forever.
Okay. Andrew Garfield, Amazing Spider-Man, follows Peter Parker. I'm going to act as if you don't know what Spider-Man is. Follows Peter Parker, this nerdy character getting bullied in school, who one day gets bit by a spider and gets superpowers, then becomes Spider-Man. And it's intertwined in this world of fighting bad guys and being selfless while also falling in love and being a high schooler and all the emotions and the feelings that come with that part of your life, while also having this super secret ability that you want nobody to know about. That's a decent
that's really good. It gave recording this always gives me an excuse to rewatch like some of the best movies in history right before, just to be,
Yeah.
for my job. So rewatching it, I'd say you got it. I think you did a good job. Do you remember the first time you watched this? Like what your life was like at the time? Or did you watch it when it came out in theaters?
See, I was trying to think of this, and for
Okay.
some reason, I cannot place when I first watched this movie, which is so
Really?
wild to me because since since it's come out, it's my comfort movie. It's one of my top five
Mm,
all times. I have like all these posters in my apartment. I have an Amazing Spider-Man one in the other side of my apartment. And I can tell you every scene and every line of dialogue, but I don't
mm.
remember the first time. I was talking to my sister about it today. It came out when I was in like grade seven, and I have this
Okay.
very vague, faint memory. I think of making the plan to go watch it in because it wasn't streaming back then, so it had to have been in the theater.
Sure.
But I think I
Right.
have this vague memory in my mind of being like with my friends, two of my friends, going to the theater to watch it. I don't remember sitting in the theater and watching it, but I remember for some reason that, oh, I'm going to go watch The Amazing Spider-Man today.
Mhm.
And I think that was the first Spider-Man I watched in theaters because when the Tobey ones came out, I was like 3 and 4 or 5 years old.
Sure.
So,
Yeah.
which is weird for a movie that's impacted me so much. I don't remember the first watch, but I've seen it so many times since.
That's so funny because I'm trying to think. I know I saw because for me it's Iron Man, and then obviously I watched all of the
Mm,
Avengers movies and everything. And I remember the first time I saw the Avengers in theaters, but I actually am not positive that I remember my first watch of Iron Man, despite the fact that
yeah,
it was like my
right.
entire personality as a teenager. Yeah, that's weird.
Weird. I have the same thing.
Do you think it's because you've watched it so many times, like they just it's blended into like one massive memory?
Maybe it's interesting. I don't think when I watched it back then, it impacted me as much as it does now. And I say that because I don't think the impact of this movie was like oh, I saw this and it changed this. I think it was a more
Mm,
subconscious thing that let me do certain things. We'll get into that. But I think
yeah,
that's what this movie did, less so of, oh, I watched this movie and I was crying. And because I have movies
right.
that do that now. Like I watched Monkey Man in theaters that had me sobbing.
Mm,
Um, but something like that I remember because I think it impacted me in that moment, space and time. But I think something like The Amazing Spider-Man, I don't think necessarily as soon as I saw it, I was like, my life has changed because I grew up loving Spider-Man already.
sure.
But it's something about that movie, I think, over time that has stood that test of time that made me go, this is golden. So,
Interesting.
yeah,
Okay, so
something like that. Yeah.
I kind of love this because there's like a parallel in Spider-Man with this where it's like you sort of got bit by this movie and this character and
Yeah.
it like slowly kind of changes your DNA, but
It's,
not
yeah,
in
slow.
this
Yeah, over
intense
time.
moment.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
that's so cool. I love a good parallel poetic moment. So you said you
I
were
just shoot
already a
webs out of my arm.
Spider-Man fan. Oh my God, can you imagine if just like the camera
I
goes
just,
black?
yeah. That's why I like it because it's just a biopic about my life. I was a fan of Spider-Man.
Okay.
I did see the Tobey ones. Um,
Mhm.
the reason that wasn't the one that I think was the big one for me is because I was still very young.
Mm,
So I don't remember those as vividly as I remember being 12, watching,
sure.
like having, I don't remember the time I watched it, but having seen that, I think that you're older and the movie sits in your brain a little longer and better than I think when you're like 4 years old watching Spider-Man. But I was a fan of Spider-Man growing up, but I'm not necessarily, and we talked about this, I'm not a comic book person. So I
Right.
didn't grow up reading comic books. I didn't grow up being super invested in superheroes because I have an older sister. So it was always like, I wasn't with an older brother where I'm like, oh, we love superheroes and comics and
Mm,
all of this. It was like my sister's playing dolls. I'm like, I'm joining you. I'm like,
right.
I still love sports. So I was doing all that stuff. But I didn't have that thing at home where I was like, I like comic books and I like superheroes or I like fantasy. It was never that. It's just something else about Spider-Man that was so intriguing to me that I was just ever since that story, it's just always a fun
Yeah.
character. Yeah.
What's interesting is Spider-Man is actually I don't know if these numbers are still accurate because this is from years ago, but
Yeah.
Spider-Man is actually the property that Marvel owns that makes the most money every year regardless of whether they release a movie or not. So they sell more
Damn.
merchandise, more
I
t-shirts,
see that though.
more everything than
I
any other
fully
character.
believe that. fully believe it. Even though Iron Man was the big one that I think saved the MCU,
Mm.
I still think Spider-Man is the one that everybody has always liked.
Yeah, it's well, what's interesting, to be a little nerdy about the film business for a minute, is that while
Yeah,
Iron Man's like really created Marvel Studios and built what we see today in this like
yeah,
massive, completely sprawling thing, Spider-Man and X-Men saved Marvel Comics. So Marvel Comics was
okay,
really about to go under, and what they ended up doing is they were like, we could license some of our really good characters out for movies, and we'll use that money to essentially be able to keep the comic books alive.
right,
And so they licensed out X-Men and Spider-Man to Sony. And that was everything before what we've seen in, Marvel Studios becoming
nice,
their own thing
yeah,
and then eventually being purchased by Disney. So you wouldn't actually get Iron Man movies if it weren't for the 3,000 different Spider-Man movies that we've had
interesting,
in
yeah,
history.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. That's
which is
interesting,
pretty fun.
yeah.
You say like Peter Parker though. You bring up Peter Parker and his story and everything like that. Did you feel a connection to Peter Parker at the beginning as this character that you've obviously now grown with, or was there someone else in the story that called to you?
Definitely Peter. I think
Yeah.
I don't know necessarily if I saw myself as like the nerdy kid in school. I don't think it was that. I think it was just this intrigue as a kid of being like, oh, it would be so cool if I could like sling webs and fly across the city and like go up walls and be this like limber and do all these things. Like, I think that had a lot of appeal for me. And the fact that it's like a secret identity that nobody knows and you're doing all this stuff. That I think to me was really cool. And then masks. And then the reason Amazing Spider-Man is so cool, that aesthetic of like the skateboard, the and like
Mm.
the long sleeve shirts under the half sleeve, like that vibe. I love that vibe. That's so specific, but I love that vibe so much, and like
Yeah.
those little details in that character that I think it opened up this world for me of, oh my god, how I could picture myself if I could swing from building to building. What would that be like if I had that freedom to do that? I think it was the first time I had seen something, because a lot of stuff I watch and write nowadays is very grounded in
Mhm.
things that could quote unquote actually happen in real life. So it's not a lot
Sure.
of fantasy. It's not a lot of that stuff, which is why I think Spider-Man was something that opened up those doors for me to be like, whoa, this is so
Mm.
real. And you could do something so real in such a grounded world. Gave me so much room, I think, just to like play with stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like it could literally happen to anyone regardless, and
Yeah.
then there's like a fantasy world. I mean, like the near reality fantasy has always been one of my favorites,
Yeah.
and I feel like it's
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
appealing for exactly the reason you're saying.
Peter's the character. I think I was like, I want to be that guy.
It's so
I
fun
want to be
too
that guy.
because I think what's interesting is like archetype wise and like in the world of Spider-Man, Peter Parker is not a cool guy. He's,
Oh no. No, no, no.
total loser, like whatever. But so many kids are like, I want to be just like that. I want to be just like the dude who's getting shoved into lockers.
It's interesting, right? It's like you have Flash who comes out and he's this like cool guy that everyone likes, and people are like, I would rather be Peter.
I'd
Which
rather
is
be
like,
bullied, in fact.
yeah,
There's
yeah, yeah. Weird.
Yeah. It's do you feel like that's different in terms of like the way teen media is portrayed? That one I think also that's the other big difference with the Amazing Spider-Man versus the Tobey Maguire movies is Tobey Maguire is a full-grown adult when we're meeting
Mm,
Spider-Man and meeting Peter Parker versus we're
right.
watching a teenager, like you said, going through all those other things. Do you feel like there was either in the time that you were watching it or in the time that you've continued watching it, like
Yeah.
big difference there with teen media in that space?
I think so. I think it
Yeah.
because again, a lot of the stuff I watched was in the element of realness. So
Mm,
I wasn't a kid that watched Harry Potter. I wasn't a kid
okay.
that watched Lord of the Rings, and which is wild to people that because I wasn't a fantasy person really. I wasn't like,
Sure.
oh, new Harry Potter movie, new like I didn't grow up with my parents saying Harry Potter and all this stuff. So that's like one of the big ones I named because that's one of the ones I think a lot of kids grew up with that
Sure.
opened up their world to fantasy and play. I didn't watch any of that. So a
Mm.
lot of the stuff I was watching was like Sweet Life of Zack and Cody, just real stuff happening with
Right.
real kids. Like, you know what I'm saying? It was that type of stuff.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
A lot of Bollywood movies as a kid,
Mhm.
which again wasn't superhero stuff. So I think Spider-Man was that first one that had that. And then the teen element of it, I think, was definitely different than the other teen stuff I was watching at the time. Because
Yeah.
again, I didn't see anyone with powers and like being a hero and all this stuff. This was the first piece of media I saw. And just seeing a teenager in high school doing that, this is sick. I was like, this is cool. Like, this is
Were
so cool.
we've never talked about this. I think you're pretty cool
Yeah.
now, but were you cool in high school? Or like in middle school?
I don't know. I just like playing. I was just playing sports.
Mm,
I was like, that was just my thing. I liked soccer and I liked volleyball. So I was just like the kid that was like, sports are fun. And I was also kind of good at educational stuff. So that was cool
mm.
too.
Okay.
So it wasn't necessarily, I don't know if I saw too much of myself in Peter. Like I wasn't like,
Yeah.
I relate to him with how he's being treated in school and stuff. I think it fully was just that there's so many elements of the movie I can get into too, but I think it was that
Yeah.
character alone. It was that superhero thing. It was his relationship with Gwen that was so well portrayed, and their chemistry, and that had a whole element that I thought was really nice. Andrew Garfield's
Mhm.
performance. I think all those little things just made me go, this guy is so cool. As much as he's not supposed to be cool, that's
Sure.
people's
Yeah.
biggest problem with Andrew. I thought he was cool. So it wasn't necessarily I relate to him getting bullied, or I relate to him being the nerdy kid in class. I think it was just the fact that I could turn my brain off and watch this thing and be like, this world is phenomenal.
Yeah. Yeah, there's
I think
something
that's what it
very cool. I
was.
like the idea that you were like not a big fantasy kid, and then you're looking at something that objectively is like the most insane
Oh
like
yeah.
it's not even like a world where everybody's in on it. It's like just one dude. One dude gets bitten by a radioactive spider, and
Literally,
everyone else is normal.
because like the posters in my apartment are a perfect reflection of that. That's Sound of
Mm,
Metal, the bear.
okay.
I have Hacks, Barry, Monkey Man,
Hmm.
Manchester by the Sea, Shameless, and then the Amazing Spider-Man.
Okay.
Like none of like you would look at all of those and then you wouldn't expect the Amazing Spider-Man to be in that lineup.
Oh, but you
Nothing
know what?
really indicates.
The the ones that you just listed, I totally see that they would be all together. I feel
Really?
like yeah, I feel like each of those pieces of media focuses on a single person who's specifically different in a great way from everyone else in their world. Like Sound of Metal, The Bear, like you've got two people that are
Yeah,
so
I could see
incredibly
that. I
good at
could see
what they
that.
do. You know what I mean? It
I
feels
could see
like
that.
you're attracted to characters that like in a normal world still stand out in some way.
Interesting. This is like a therapy session.
I know, you're welcome. I
I'm
charge
like,
120 an hour.
interesting. I'm ending the call.
I
I'm
know.
a,
Oh, that's right. You're Canadian. I forgot.
that's interesting though. Maybe it is. I meant in terms of like the fantasy stuff because I'm like, oh, it feels so out
Sure.
of place. But you're right. I think I am attracted to that idea of one person is this like. I mean, Shameless has Jim Allen White's character who's like this
Mhm,
guy who's really smart and he's not doing well. And that was my favorite character in that.
mhm.
Yeah, you're right. Good analysis. You're good at
Anytime,
your
man.
job. You're good at your job. That was a good
I
analysis.
love those those little moments. Um,
Yeah.
that's cool though. I do like this idea kind of I know there's also you talked about Bollywood, which I'm curious
Yeah.
because I know there's one specific one for you as well. But do you feel like that is something that's also present in the Bollywood films that you were watching growing up?
The one character
Yeah.
different arc. Not necessarily. I think I grew up watching a
Okay.
lot of like the typical Bollywood romance movies that you
Mhm.
see, like all of that style of stuff. I think, but the ones that did stand out to me were the ones that weren't the romance ones. So maybe like Om Shanti Om is one of those ones about like the one character who has this dream and it becomes this other type of, it becomes a different movie entirely. But
Mm.
again, focus on one cool character. I think the ones I was talking about was one Bhag Milkha Bhag was the
Yeah.
one that I mentioned about like an athlete.
Mhm.
That one definitely is one character on a mission to do his thing, achieve his goals. So I think I like that idea a lot of this one character that's set out in this world to do something that
Yeah.
nobody else would do. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm interested in it too because I feel like I know you grew up playing sports, like you said, and then a big one of those was soccer for you.
Yeah,
Um, how do you feel like that sort of like sports mentality has changed the way you look at life too? Because I feel like also having played sports, obviously working in sports,
yeah,
athletes have a different way of looking at life than even if you don't, go to a high level.
right.
I'm curious for you. Yeah.
Sports that shaped my entire, I think, personality or approach to life. More so my approach to life because I grew up, I think, since the age of 4. I was playing soccer.
Mm,
Started playing
okay.
soccer at 4 in house leagues and different teams. I was also doing karate and all that stuff. I left karate because it was the same time as soccer a few years in. Um, my parents made it an active part of their lives to take me to soccer because I enjoyed it. Different teams, literally since I was 4, I've been playing. But what that did, I think, is a few things. One was it ingrained um, this competitiveness in my mind,
Mm,
which I really like because I just love competition. I love even beyond like let's say like, it's like when I'm playing games with people, it's like it's fun if you're trying to win. Like if we're playing pool,
right.
let's have a game of pool where it's like we're both trying to win. I can do the casual thing, obviously. So it's not like I'm somebody who's like I need to win everything. But
Hmm.
I think that soccer, growing up playing soccer at a decently highish level, I traveled America playing soccer and I did all that stuff. Made me go, cool. I have this one thing that I'm trying to do. You have to work for it. You have to train. You have to do all this. And a big thing that I think playing soccer or any team sport at a young age, and I call this my team sport theory. I've coined the term
Okay.
for this because I feel like every young person, every kid should play team sports because I think it teaches you a lot of fundamental aspects of life at a very young age. What I mean is, let's say you're playing in a team with it's like 15 of you, like 15 kids,
Mm,
your age, and you try your hardest and you've done everything you can, and then you lose a game, you have to go home and deal with, I did everything I could and I lost. And
mm,
you're learning to deal with that at a young age. Or you get in an argument with somebody on your team, and now 2 seconds later, you're on the field, you have to work together and play together. You can't run away from that. You can't storm off. You need to face this thing. That's something you start learning to deal with subconsciously. Your coach puts you on the bench for the whole game. You feel super embarrassed with like other kids your age. That's something you have to
right.
deal with. It forces you to be in a lot of intricate social situations at a very young age that I think then shapes how you deal with stress in the future, how you deal with loss, how you deal with being resilient. I think that shaped a lot of my life with, especially in the
Mm,
acting career, getting rejected all the time. But I don't really, it doesn't bring me down that much. I think because I'm used to, oh, I've tried everything I can and we lost. It just wasn't our night. You see
mm,
that in sports all the time. One team could clearly be playing better and then they lose. And it's like, what are you going to do?
yeah.
So I think it was small
Yeah.
things like that that shaped that for me.
That's interesting. It's like I think you're right 100%.
Yeah.
And I think there's like a true kind of idea of like the only thing you can do is know that you left everything on the field or the court or
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah.
Um, and you're taking that into life itself. I think
Yeah.
also some of what you're describing is part of what we're watching Peter Parker do in this movie. You're sort of watching him get these new powers, get this new insane ability, deal with life in general outside with his relationship with high school, with Flash, um, and then also still have this, you know, game, so to speak, like of saving the
Right.
city in general
Yeah.
afterwards. Um, do you, I wonder if you feel like that, because again, like we're talking about some of your favorite pieces have this same
Yeah.
almost athlete's journey. I feel like there's like a level of that being reflected in some of your favorite stuff here.
First of all, great way to tie that back into Spider-Man. I was like, I'm like, this segue was phenomenal. I'm like, you brought us right back on track so well. I'm gonna keep calling it out. I'm gonna keep calling it out. I'm gonna go on so many tangents. So it's good that you're so on your game with bringing us back to, because I go on tangents.
Tangents are great, man.
Yeah, yeah, but I think the athlete's journey, that one Bollywood movie, Bottom of Football, is literally about an athlete's journey. Um,
Mm,
that was a big part of my grade. Same time, grade 7 and 8. I watched it a lot of times. But I think a lot of the movies that I watch either our athlete journey or that pursuit of greatness
Mm,
journey, that arc of, I don't know why that resonates with me so much. It definitely is like the upbringing, because me and my sister grew up in the same house, but she's very different than I am as a person.
sure.
Like she's not this competitive. She
Mm,
doesn't have that. It's also she's older, I'm younger. That influences how you grow up and stuff. But I really don't know what it is. But I think a lot of the movies I watch do have that athlete's journey, have that one character, even if it's not athlete, they have this thing inside that they're trying to fight through, work past, get. Like there's something that
sure.
they're struggling with or they're fighting to get to. And like Peter's a great one with that same you got to lay it all out in the field. Like you see that so much
Mm,
where he tries his hardest and he comes home and he's like, I couldn't do it. Like I
yeah.
couldn't save Gwen. Heartbreak. I mean, Spider-Man 2, but things like that.
Oh, yeah.
I keep seeing edits of it on TikTok and it's pissing me off. It's pissing me off. But yeah, no, Peter definitely has that. Maybe that sport thing does shape a lot of the cinema I watch.
Yeah.
Probably does.
It feels like a lot of it seems like it was happening around the same time. Like you're coming up
Yeah.
through soccer, you're going grade 7, grade 8, you're watching these movies that have this sort of greatness. And I think it's kind of cool just knowing you as a friend and watching and now kind of knowing a lot of this as your upbringing. It's cool to watch you because you have that same sort of hunger as an actor, as a creator, where you've got something, a little bit special, I think, and you're still
Oh, thank you.
pushing for that individually, which is cool. So,
Yeah, it's
yeah.
why it's like when Timothy Chalamet did his SAG speech about like I'm
Mm,
pursuing greatness. I thought it was a cool speech. I was like,
yeah,
because he mentioned athletes in it, and I was like, this is quite
right.
literally how I look at how I look at life. And I was a fan of like Ronaldo's my favorite player, so and
Sure.
he's somebody who's like the embodiment of hard work and dedication and grind. And so growing up and looking at someone like that, and I'm like, oh, I love how this man plays soccer and how he does this
Mm,
stuff. All I think all just ties into how I navigate acting and filmmaking too. Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, I think as long as you stay away from, getting angry about the ballet, you've got it's a great spot.
Yeah. Poor guy.
Um,
Poor guy. What a wild run.
oh, what truly, what was he thinking? But yeah, I'm curious also because I think one of the things that you mentioned earlier, and just kind of in our conversations about film in
Yes.
general, a lot of people look at Marvel movies and superhero movies and say it's a popcorn movie. It's not
Mhm.
filmmaking. It's just it's just a movie. But I think a lot of these things are super impactful, and also I wonder if there are any filmmaking moments about this movie that stood out to you. Maybe not on your grade 7 watch, but kind of in general as you've rewatched it all this time.
I think the one thing that again a lot of people say about superhero movies is like, oh, it's just like comic book fluff and all this stuff, and people are just like people pleasing, and it's just like this cartoony stuff going on. I didn't read the comic books, and I loved Amazing Spider-Man. Right? I
Yeah,
wasn't. I wasn't. I don't feel like I'm your typical superhero watch, like your fantasy watcher, because I didn't watch any of
sure.
the fantasy stuff, but I have like Spider-Man stuff all over my apartment. So clearly, it's
Mhm.
not just that thing that people think it is. But from the filmmaking perspective, the one thing I love the most about the Amazing Spider-Man, one, the CGI in that film still holds up incredibly well.
Real.
Sony
Yeah.
was on the ball with that, phenomenal. Um, I think what really did it for me, like I said, a lot of stuff. I like a lot of stuff that's grounded in reality.
Mm,
That movie is one of the Spider-Man movies that feels like it could happen in this in like our current world. I think
mhm,
it's a lot of how it was shot. I think it was the emphasis on his relationship with Gwen,
mhm.
um, because Mark Webb did 500 Days of Summer and then he did The Amazing Spider-Man, so he knows how to
Yeah.
tell those like romance stories and like show that chemistry on screen. I think that showed in Amazing Spider-Man. So although not a filmmaking like technique, I think the things that he emphasized in that in The Amazing Spider-Man gave it a lot more of a real vibe than I think I
Mhm,
often get in some superhero movies. Like it was, and the way that Andrew portrayed that character was also a very grounded approach
mm.
to this character in this world. So I think it was. I think it was a lot of those choices that made me go, oh, cool. Not
Yeah.
necessarily any specific filmmaking technique or tactic.
Or
The
moment. But
music they
yeah, but
use
you're
is phenomenal.
ooh, true.
I just remembered. I have a Spotify playlist on my phone, literally called Amazing Spider-Man Vibes, and it's songs that have been in that movie or I think belong in that movie. So the soundtrack is
Mm,
also like I use I literally use Amazing Spider-Man music, not even like the
mm,
actual songs, like their soundtrack they made for Amazing Spider-Man in the sketches you see today.
okay.
Half of the zombie ones that you've seen have Amazing Spider-Man like music in the
In the
background.
background.
I've been using it, and people call it out
So
every
funny.
time. I keep using it because it fits so well
Yeah.
in everything that I've done. But I just had to, I just
Yeah.
remembered that the music
No,
is a
that's
big
so
thing
funny.
from that movie too.
Yeah, I think what you're touching on is this idea. I think it's interesting because I was a big comic book kid. So
Yeah,
I look at the Amazing Spider-Man as like I think Andrew Garfield was great. Like he is genuinely, I would say, kind of my favorite. It's so hard to pick, but he is my favorite
they're all
portrayal of.
so good. Yeah,
Yeah, they're all so good.
they're all
Um,
so good.
but I think The Amazing Spider-Man stands out in a space from the comic book side where the Tobey Maguire movies are like made for comic book fans. And if you happen to enjoy that
Right,
movie as a moviegoer, great. But those are like, and especially understanding that that's what was happening. They were licensing those comics over to try to get people to still read the comics
right,
and be able to keep the
right,
comics going. Totally makes sense that that's what they would do. Similarly, with the X-Men movies that were happening at the same time, I think they fit into that same space. But The Amazing Spider-Man, very differently than Tom Holland's Spider-Man as well that we're watching now, which Tom Holland's Spider-Man is about fitting into the MCU that already exists. Like
right,
both of his movies have so much Tony Stark in them. There's so much of his movies being connected to the other ones. I think Andrew Garfield's movies, which you're touching on now, sit in this space where they are great movies on their own if you had never heard of Peter
right,
Parker before.
right,
Um,
right.
and that's really fun. There's something really cool about
Yeah,
that.
yeah, yeah. I don't think they showed the origin story for the Tom Holland one at all. I
Yeah,
don't
they
think they
skipped over
show
it.
him. Yeah, they skipped over. This new one's gonna be amazing though. The trailer, the
I am very excited for
cinematography,
it. Yeah. They're
it's gonna be
bringing me
incredible.
back. Every time I try to get
Yeah.
out, they pull me back in.
No, but I think you're right. I think the Amazing Spider-Man did that where it felt like such a standalone piece,
Mm.
which kind of also sucks because I'm like, give me Andrew with the rest of the MCU too. Let me see him
Yeah, we got
interact
him
with
with
these
the
other
other
guys.
we got him with Toby and Tom.
Oh,
That was the
we did.
best.
Yeah, we did, we did.
Yeah.
You're right. I forgot.
Yeah.
We did get that. But it's like growing up, I'm like, he fits perfectly in a world with the Venom and the Tom Hardy Venom.
Yes.
That would have
Oh my
been
god.
such a. I've seen so many edits of like Tom Hardy and a Gat, like the. I've seen so many good edits of how those two would work together. I'm like, it'd be sick.
Yeah, it would have
I got
been
off
I would
topic
have
there.
no, that's a good one. That's true though. I feel like that is one of the hard parts about like the way that the Sony and Disney merger went in terms of like Sony got to
Yeah,
keep this, Disney got this. It's tough because you're right. Like from a just story point of view, can you imagine Tom Hardy versus Andrew Garfield? I would have not a seat
would
would
have
have been
lost my
empty in
mind.
those
Would have
theaters.
lost my mind. Yeah,
That's how we
yeah.
save the theaters is we do that. I don't care. It can
We
stand
just
on its
bring
own.
Tom Hardy and Andrew Garfield. Yeah, bring them back. Save
Yeah.
theaters.
Yeah, oh gosh. These ones also have Gwen Stacy, which is not your typical Mary Jane, which
Yes,
is
yes,
pretty cool.
yeah,
Did you do you I mean, not to say pick between love interests for Peter
yeah,
Parker, but like to have Gwen Stacy in these movies, I think you've touched a lot about like growing up watching rom-coms,
yeah.
500 Days of Summer, the rom-com element of this. Does the romance subplot feel pretty core to your enjoyment of this movie?
I think so. I think
Yeah.
I did watch a lot of romance growing up, but the Bollywood side.
Mhm.
But then I didn't watch. I wasn't necessarily somebody who would seek out rom coms and watch them, which
Mhm.
is why I think it was so interesting that their love story was so intriguing to me in that
Mhm.
movie. But their chemistry is undeniable in that, like, it's so good. And there's just one scene that I
So
keep
good.
remembering every time. It's the scene when he's in the hallway, and he's asking her out, but they don't. They're just like stuttering to each other. It's like we can maybe do this, or we can maybe, you know what I'm saying? They're doing that thing,
Yeah, yeah.
and it's such a like some like that's written so well
Mhm.
in a not in a way that's so unique as well. Like it's not what we usually see when these two characters are asking each other out. It was done in such a cute, way. And I think there's a part of me that really liked that aspect of the movies of, oh, cool, look at this romance, look at what's going on here. Definitely was a part
Yeah.
to why I enjoyed the movies 100%.
Yeah, there's a world of it, so much of it, and maybe also just because it's teenagers as opposed to adults like we talked about, but there's this space where it's the parts that are not him being bitten by a radioactive spider and shooting webs out of his arms and fighting
Yeah,
criminals, like,
yeah,
everything else is so grounded in reality that
that's
it
what I
almost
love
makes
about
you go
that
like,
movie.
yeah, it almost makes you go like, "Yeah, okay, he could have gotten bit by a spider because everything else is so true, so I'm willing to
Yeah,
believe, the ridiculous part."
yeah. Which is like the groundedness of that movie. I think the romance plays a huge factor into it, which
Part in
is
that.
why I think I liked it so much, because I'm like, oh, it was very real.
Yeah.
Yeah,
We have to talk about you can't talk about Peter Parker without talking about family, I feel pretty strongly, importantly.
yeah.
How obviously you knew Peter Parker's story going into this, but we lose Uncle Ben again. How do you deal with this moment of like tragedy that forces you to become a hero?
Oh man, that it was so well done in that movie. That relationship, they're I like the Uncle Ben a lot. I think it's a
Mm,
really cool Uncle Ben. Um, it's interesting. I personally, knock on wood, don't have a personal relation to like going through a big tragedy to like find myself during that. Knock on
sure.
freaking wood, dude. So
Yeah,
I don't have
dude.
that, which is nice.
Yeah.
Um, but that as a motivator in that movie was phenomenal, because then it makes him. There's a whole part of that movie where he really starts feeling like he's a hero, and I think it was
Mm,
one of the it was Gwen's dad who was like, this guy clearly has an agenda. Like he's trying to find one specific.
mm,
He's not a hero. Like he's trying to find somebody specific, which then makes Peter go, "Am I being selfish? Like was this whole thing a
mm,
selfish thing that I'm disguising as me being a hero?" Which I think is a nice plot point that they touched in there, where it's like he didn't just become this dude who's, I'm this courageous guy that's going to save the world. The tragedy happened, and then because he's in the search for like what happened to his dad. Then his uncle
mm,
passes away because of him storming off. Like he's responsible for all of this stuff happening, and he's like, now I'm going to be a big hero, but he's still only trying to figure out something that benefits him or is related to him.
mm.
So I think that was a cool point. He does get over eventually to become this guy who's trying to just save the whole city after the Dr. Connors is doing. Um, I always like tragedy as a motivator in film. I don't know what that says about me.
You're like,
I
I
love
just
sad
love when
stuff.
people suffer, you know?
I,
There's something very interesting about the way that the what you're talking about, this idea of like people viewing him as a hero while he's actively potentially causing more harm to the people
yeah,
around them. Like in
yeah,
that hunt, do you ever kind of do you struggle with that idea of like selfishness versus selflessness and where the line really moves?
all the time, because I would say I'm a pretty selfish person. I would, in the sense of the career that I've chosen to pursue requires a lot of sacrifice and selfishness,
Mm,
in terms of I will drop everything anytime to do anything for work. I had a two trips last year that were vacations. Was in Peru with my friends. I left halfway through to go to Cannes, because I'm not gonna say no to Cannes when it presents itself.
absolutely. Yeah.
And then I had like a trip in Alberta with my family, and I had to miss like the first few days because I was in LA doing press for like Superman. So
Mm,
I will always do the thing where I'm like, cool. I'm so driven to this one thing. And I think that's a very selfish. I'm not necessarily thinking selfish is a negative thing, but it is a very
mm,
selfish thing that I get to do. I guess growing up like middle class, having enough privilege to be able to do this thing, um, and then having the career I have, I'm allowed to be a little selfish. So I think I do have that,
yeah.
but then I do struggle with that line of that selfishness versus selflessness, because it's a tough thing to be like, am I just only doing stuff for myself all the time? Like when am I,
Mm,
like how do I balance this thing? And then being like a kid of two immigrant parents, where India has a lot of selflessness and familial relations and being selfless in your family. it's weird sometimes to be like, I'm always doing what benefits me.
Right.
And like that's I'm like, is it bad that the first thing I always think of is my career or what will
Yeah.
make my life easier? But I think over time I've gotten better
Mm.
at that. But
Yeah.
it's tough. It's tough, and you know, with this career too, where it's like at any moment you could be like, hey, you're going to the Olympics. And you're like, oh shit,
Right.
I
Be
have
like,
I have stuff to do,
sorry. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
right? So it's like so I think I struggle with it a little bit less so now, but I think I do have that thing where I'm like, am I just going to only think about my career forever? Like I'm like, is
Yeah.
that all that I'm going to think about
See,
and prioritize?
okay. Connecting it, not to say that like creating entertainment, which is what you and I do, is
Yes,
the same as like saving the world from crime. Not
yes,
making like a false equivalency here, but
you should.
I
It's the exact same.
it's the exact same.
We're
You know what I
saving
mean?
everybody.
We're saving lives every single day. But for me, I think a lot about the reason I wanted to make entertainment or the reason I wanted to make film in
Yeah,
general or and that's so much of like the hard times that I was going through when I was younger. All I did
yeah,
was watch TV, all I did was watch movies, and those were the times where I felt okay. Like those were the 30 minutes of watching a television show and hours of going online and talking about it, or um 2 hours in a movie theater and feeling for a little bit, just for a little, a little while, I felt fine.
yeah,
And objectively, maybe even happy.
yeah.
If you're being true. And I wonder sort of like in that hero's journey as you're pursuing a career, which essentially is trying to do that for other people, right? Like it is a required selfishness to be able to do it, to focus on your career,
Yeah.
to get to that level. But ideally, when you do that, you put something out either online or in the theaters or a book or a TV show or whatever, or this podcast while we're talking about Spider-Man for an hour. Like, hopefully, that selfishness has maybe in your personal life and with the people around you has in a greater good type of way provided some sort of relief or release, which is
Hmm.
similar to that same idea, I think, with a superhero narrative, with a Peter Parker narrative.
Yeah, yeah. I think that's what a lot of art is, or a lot of the stuff
Mm,
that you see, these movies that resonate with people so much would not have been possible if it wasn't for those writers or those like playwrights that have written plays, people that have
mhm,
written all these things. If they didn't isolate themselves, if they didn't go make this thing, it wouldn't have the impact that it has had. But it's a weird thing to mentally figure out because you don't necessarily always
right.
see that impact. Like
Mm,
the people won't always see that what you're doing or this podcast or any of the stuff you put on create, you won't necessarily see somebody watching it at home being like, oh my god, this is like, I love, like this has changed me in
sure.
such a cool way. Like Monkey Man, for example, the reason when I watched the Dev Patel movie, when I watched it in theaters and cried, it wasn't necessarily because of the plot. I was
Mm,
just like, oh my goodness, I'm watching this South Asian brown dude who wrote this movie, made this movie, and the theater is not only packed with South Asian people. That
mhm,
to me was like, whoa. It essentially was a Bollywood movie made for Hollywood. Like the way that
yeah,
it was all Indian characters and all that. So I was like, that impacted me a lot. So I was like, oh my God, this is this is amazing.
yeah,
But I don't know if Dev Patel sees that, right? And
sure.
he talks
Yeah.
about his struggles with that movie where he's like, I wrote it. Director couldn't find a director. Director fell through. Then COVID happened, and this thing. He talks about like the insane amount of challenges. And Jordan Peele came on, and he's talking about all this, which definitely probably required a lot of sacrifice to be able to make this whole thing. He got
Mhm,
injured and like broke his hand while making this movie.
yeah.
But if he didn't do that, it wouldn't have impacted me or a bunch of other people like myself. So yeah, I think maybe that selfishness has an outcome
Mm,
that's more selfless, but I think
yeah.
it's a hard thing to balance. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it definitely is. I have you seen The Last Dance, the Michael Jordan documentary?
Yes.
There's
Yeah.
I think about this moment in that documentary all the time when I think about these types of things. Or
Yeah.
like I guess this sort of overall idea of like selflessness versus greatness versus,
Yeah.
those types of things. There is a moment where they essentially ask him, do you feel like everyone hating you, like being not well liked was worth what you accomplish, because they've gone through and they've shown, I mean, we're too young to have like grown up with Michael Jordan
Yeah.
actually and experienced it, but Michael Jordan was not a super well liked guy. His teammates didn't love him. He was a pretty controversial figure. He in terms of like his team, not necessarily like in the world,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
famously he punched Steve Kerr in the face during practice one time, which I would never stop telling people if it were me. I'd be like, yeah, Michael Jordan punched me in the face. Be my icebreaker every day. But
Uh,
he wasn't a well liked guy.
yeah.
And
Yeah.
you get this picture of someone who is so beyond the idea of greatness. Like he is truly one of those figures that you'll just never understand what it's like to be him. But he's also very lonely, like very not surrounded by people in any way part of his life. Like, and
Yeah.
you look at him and he kind of like tears well up in his eyes, which is a very impactful moment in the first place because Michael Jordan's not necessarily the guy you're thinking about crying.
Yeah.
And then he says, I wanted to win. Like, if you didn't want to win like this, then don't play. And he asks, then like his voice gets choked up and he asks to cut and like he walks out of the interview. And I think about that so much because there's like
Mm.
this little line where you can see it in Peter Parker as well, where there is a question of at a certain point to be at this high level, you are going to lose something in your personal life. And for Peter Parker, there's the fact that he has to keep Spider-Man a secret. Then the one person he does ultimately let in with Gwen Stacy ultimately dies. He can't save her. It's horrible. I don't think anyone should, lose a loved one or a girlfriend or a boyfriend or
Yeah.
anything over over your dreams, but everything in a superhero movie is heightened, but there's a space where objectively every version of Peter Parker is going to have an extreme amount of loneliness, but that's in order to use this great power, great responsibility space after he loses
Yeah.
his uncle, and that stays. So it's my tangent of talking about Michael Jordan, but I
Yeah.
feel like
No, I
it's
love it.
interesting. It like kind of it ties all together, like your sports feelings, your movies, and this Peter Parker space.
Yeah, it's interesting. And we see it in No Way Home. He literally is so isolated. Nobody knows who he is now.
Right.
So that's, I mean, interesting arc. But yeah, I don't think there needs to be that extreme.
Mm,
Um, but again, Michael Jordan is Michael Jordan. So does it have to be that extreme to get to? But I mean, then
right.
you have like someone like LeBron who's also up there, and he hasn't like he still has that element of
Mm,
greatness, but he has like his family life and his this and like there is a balance I think that could be found.
yeah.
Like it doesn't have to be as extreme as a Whiplash, where you're
Mhm.
like in the movie Whiplash, where it's like this is everything I need more and more. But it was also in the movie Hustle. I think Adam Sandler says it, where it's like, are you obsessed with this thing?
Mm,
Not just like, are you hardworking or talented? Are you like, do you have this obsession? It's really interesting because what is that line? Like how obsessed and how far do you have to go to be not the best at what you do, but I guess to achieve the things you want to do at the caliber you want to achieve them.
mhm. Right.
I don't like, it's weird because I resonate with that part of, oh, I'm obsessed with this thing and I love this thing. But I also am someone who is like, cool, I want to see my friends. So it's like,
Right.
I'm going to go hang with my friends. I'm going to do this thing and I'm going to do that. So it might not be as extreme as like a Michael Jordan, but does that mean I won't make it? I
Right.
don't know. You can never find out the answer to that because there's a gazillion factors that'll take a human anywhere of like what will make or break or like take you to a certain level. So it's never going to be measurable of is
Mhm.
the obsession the only factor that keeps you going. It's a very interesting thing to dive into though, because a lot of those greats are people who have become
Yeah.
so obsessed with this thing to the point where that's all they care about.
I think a point you made too, you could look at it with Michael, you could at it with Peter. Do you recognize individually by yourself that you're reaching that point of obsession or that it's crossed the line until you're too far past it? Like
Mm,
with Peter, I think there's this space where, he's kind of figuring it out, he's trying to get through it. And we have the one of the most famous lines in the franchise that gets repeated no matter what, which is with great power comes great responsibility. And you see Peter become very obsessed with that responsibility after you lose Ben.
Mm-hmm.
And then that obsession drives him to a point where he puts other people in danger. But that obsession is so necessary for him to become Spider-Man, like to
Yeah.
truly
Yeah.
be Spider-Man.
Yeah.
I wonder if like if that space is something that you ever recognize that you're there until it's too late to not be there.
It's interesting. Yeah, because he goes through that. He misses picking up Aunt May because he's obsessed with, oh, I
Mhm.
want to figure out my dad's formula. What's the secret? I'm ignoring these calls, which are my loved ones, because I want to figure
Mhm.
this thing out. Comes home, that creates that butterfly effect of what happened to Uncle Ben. And then I think he comes to terms with it in the second movie where he's like, Gwen, don't go to England. I love you. Stay. And then
Yeah.
we know what happens. So I think he maybe figures it out kind of in the middle
Mm.
of that obsession, but he has lost so much when he does.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's tough, man. I don't think I'm at a point where I'm so obsessed that I'm ruining stuff in my life. I hope I'm not. I hope I'm not. I hope it's still like,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
hope I'm still somewhat of sane mind to to be to be hanging out with my friends and my family. What I will say is I think I have a great support system balance
Mm.
in my life
Mhm.
where it's like my parents are very loving, express their love. My sister's great. So on FaceTime with her for like an hour and a half before this, where it's like I have that. I think that keeps me sane. Like I'm not
Mhm.
fighting those battles that you usually see where like a Peter Parker is hiding stuff, so it's just him alone.
Right.
Or there's people that are like, oh, no one understands my dream, so I'm going to do it myself. I think my family is so bought into what I also like that there's less of that loneliness that I think pushes you to that.
Yeah.
So I think that's the thing, and it's like my friends and all the people that are really close to me are also people who are like, cool, we're like here as
Yeah.
a thing for you. So I think I don't think I'm too far gone yet.
I don't think you are either.
I
I
don't think
feel like
I hope I hope
no,
I'm
I
not.
like that. I think
Yeah,
there's something cool about the idea of like seeing yourself in Peter in this kind of hero's journey, in this
yeah,
obsession, but being lucky enough to have what objectively a movie hero wouldn't have because then there wouldn't be a story. But
right,
having a support system, having a family that
right,
loves you, that supports your dreams, it's
yeah.
almost I think you get sort of the best of the fantasy and the best of the reality. But maybe for Peter, watching your life, his fantasy would be the support system and the love that you have and the ability to kind of have that space.
Then he wouldn't
Which
be
is
Spider
that's
Man,
so
and
true.
he wouldn't be Spider Man. But it's interesting. We wouldn't care about that movie as much if he didn't go through all that loss.
Right.
Like it wouldn't be as interesting, which is so wild to look at. It's like the tragedy is what makes it you feel for him so much more. Even in the new one
Yeah.
coming out, the fact that he lost MJ and she doesn't remember him makes us go, "Oh my god, I care about
Right.
you so much more now." Yeah.
Yeah, you're like, "Oh,
So
I have
yeah.
to see that one when it comes out." And you're like, "Oh, you just had to make the small boy sad? Like, that's all we had to do,
So
to make you care?" Pretty much, yep, it's an entire genre
literally,
of film.
yep.
Oh, I think we had some very deep conversations that I love today. This was really cool and really fun. I gotta ask you the last question I always ask everyone, which is, if you had never seen Andrew Garfield's The Amazing Spider-Man, what would be different about you today?
I think there would be a lot less play in my imagination, which is my
Mm,
entire career. I think it gave me a lot more permission to dive into a character and these fictional worlds that are so big and so grand that let me get imaginative and start writing and start being really interested in movies and cinema. I watched the
mhm.
whole behind the scenes making of The Amazing Spider-Man. So I think it was a movie that gave me that permission to kind of have fun with fiction and have fun with storytelling. So if I hadn't seen this movie, I don't know if I would have been as into maybe film and television
Mm,
as I am now, especially on the writing and creating side. Maybe I would have kept enjoying it. I don't know if I would have given myself enough permission to be a kid that's like, I love this guy who's sling webs. So maybe my
Yeah.
dream isn't stupid, right? Maybe
Mm,
it's not weird to play or have fun with worlds like this. If people love Spider-Man, why would something I make not be? Why would that be weird? I think it gave me
sure.
the. I wish I had a way to condense this into a sentence or two, but I think if I hadn't watched that movie, yeah, I don't think I'd have the. I don't think I would have given myself the permission and freedom to play on the creative side of film as much as I do now.
I really love that. I feel like
Yeah.
there's like something very different in maybe your approach to Spider-Man that versus everyone else, or also maybe this is why Spider-Man is such a big property for everyone, like why it performs the
Mm,
best for Marvel no matter what, is that there's something so normal about Peter despite the fact that nothing about his
yeah.
life is normal.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
that everyone can find that. Like you're finding this space where essentially he just sort of dared you to think like, I mean, dude, people are watching me swing from buildings. Why can't
Yeah.
you make a movie? I think that's
Why
cool.
can't I make a zombie apocalypse in an abandoned school? Or if you could buy into one, you could buy into the other. You could buy into one, you could buy into
Absolutely.
the other. Yeah.
Well, also, most important question of the day. If people want to watch your movies or your clips or things like that, where can they find you on the internet?
Just don't. Yeah. No, it's YuviRayz, YuviRayz on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, pretty much everywhere. It's UV, like ultraviolet
Mhm.
rays, UV
Yep.
rays. I was in grade 7 when I came up with it. I did everything in grade 7, huh? I
Oh my
was in
god.
grade
I
7 when
guess
I came
12
up
was
with
a really big deal for you. 12 years old, man.
I came up with that username at grade 7. Stuck with it since. But yeah, all my stuff is there. And then I'm
Perfect.
kind of in the process of developing some stuff that hopefully won't won't be on social media and will be out to watch somewhere else in the world. So we'll see
Oh,
where this journey
okay.
takes
Watch
us.
this space. I love it.
We'll
Well,
see where
thanks,
this journey
UV,
takes
so
us.
much for hanging out. And everybody
Thank you.
listening, please go follow and check out UV stuff because it is some of my favorite stuff on the internet.
Thank you
All
so
right.
much.
Thank you so much for joining me this week on this episode of You Are What You Love. If Peter Parker or any other version of Spider-Man has been something that was impactful for you, I'd be curious to know if any of our conversation particularly resonated for you, or if there are any specific moments in your life where you feel like Peter Parker, Spider-Man, or the MCU has helped you become the person that you are today. Next week, my friend Zoe is joining us to talk about Drive to Survive, the television show that I have previously referred to as The Real Housewives, but if the housewives were professional athletes. We talk about how Drive to Survive and Daniel Ricciardo in particular not only shaped the career that she has today, but also gave her a community that she knew she was seeking, but didn't exactly know how to find. Until next week, make sure that you are subscribed so that you don't miss the episode. And until then, I've been your host, Marissa Tandon, and I hope you are enjoying what you love.